March Madness continues. And no, I'm not talking about the basketball people. I'm not talking about the basketball and the brackets and the tournament that's going on. I'm talking about the madness of the Democrat Party. And just when you thought they couldn't get more ridiculous, just when you thought they couldn't get more laughable, just when you were like, how much worse can the Democrat Party get? Well, let's just say they're bringing back their all-star lineup, and I am all here for it. I am ready. I have never been more excited about the future of a party than I am right now about the future of the Democrat Party, and mostly for the memes. You know, it's mostly selfish. I'm like, oh, I'm already lining up jokes. The Democrat Party, now that they've been knocked down, now that they've been dragged through the mud, now that they're staring into the abyss of nothingness and on the brink of not just obscurity, but on the brink of memes. You know, it's mostly selfish. Pardon me. Not just on the brink of obscurity, but on the brink of being totally, I guess, eliminated from existence. The Democrat Party is, I guess, looking to the past to inspire their future. I don't even know what they're going to do, but they're bringing back, man, these disgraced Democrat politicians and media types are looking for a mid-March Madness comeback. And I am ready for it. I am ready for it. And we're going to get to all that. We're going to get to all that here in just a second. Plus, Donald Trump, he deleted the Department of Education. He expelled the Department of Education from the federal government, and he basically doged his own Secretary of Education, Linda McMahon. She was all about it. She was all smiles yesterday when she realized she's going to lose her job, but still get paid, which is typical of government work. You don't work, but you still get paid. That's one of the reasons we have Donald Trump in the White House. That's one of the reasons we have the Department of Government Efficiency. And that's one of the reasons we no longer have the Department of Education. We'll get to all of that. There's so much to talk about today. There's so much going on. And I'm thrilled about it. And I'm excited it's Friday, and I'm excited for the weekend. And yes, there's a lot of basketball on, but there's a lot of politics too. And before we get any further, let me just remind you, now is the time that you want to subscribe to this channel, because if you're enjoying this content so far, and we haven't even gotten started yet, you're going to want this content all the time. You're going to want YouTube or Rumble, whoever it is, to say, hey, we got new Mark Kaye Saves the Republic content. Mark Kaye's been busy down there in Mar-a-Lago at Kayetriot HQ creating new stuff for you. So go ahead and subscribe, set the notifications so that you get this stuff all the time. And if you're listening on the podcast page, whether it's iTunes or Spotify, make sure you tell them, yeah, I like Mark Kaye Saves the Republic, and I want it over and over and over again. That sounded dirtier. That sounded dirtier than I meant it to. Plus, if you want to join the Kayetriot Club, we do have a live after party today immediately following the show. Kayetriot Club members only will be able to access an extra 20-ish minutes. On Friday, we run a little short because I've got a 2 o'clock gig. But we do a little after party after the show, which is very exciting. Join at kayetriots.com. You can become a Kayetriot Club member. There's all kinds of benefits. Not just, let me show the sticker. I haven't shown the stickers in a while. Where are they? Here they go. All of our Kayetriot Club members, when you become a supporter, first of all, you get access to the Kayetriot Club. You get access to our after parties. You get a 25% discount on everything in the Mark Kaye shop. And I'm talking everything. I'm talking everything. If you go and you load up your cart in the Mark Kaye shop, then you can use your discount code and you can get 25% off everything you order. If you're getting some Gulf of America hoodies, maybe Golfy, the official Gulf of America mascot, if you're buying some Donald Trump official portrait gear, if you're buying a Donald Trump Brighter Future collection, which, by the way, that is still one of my favorite hoodies. I have this hoodie here, this official, okay. Fun fact, I have all the hoodies, but this one right here, the Brighter Future men's hoodie, I have it in charcoal gray, and it is my favorite of all the hoodies. It's the most comfortable. It's, in my humble opinion, the best looking. I get the most compliments on it. So if you're looking for a great hoodie, I would recommend that one. And again, if you're a member of the Kayetriot Club, you get 25% off everything that you can jam in your cart. Plus, look, collectible stickers that are only available to Kayetriot Club members. This is a little sticker. These are free, by the way, when you join Kayetriots, the official Kayetriot logo. We've got the 47 Daily Podcast sticker. We've got the official Gulf of America sticker. You can put that on your Tesla, and you could really annoy some libs. The Mark Kaye Saves the Republic, and then this is my favorite, Mar-a-Lago. It's tough to see on the camera, but the official emblem of Mar-a-Lago, where I live and work every day, where Kayetriot HQ is headquartered, and of course where we broadcast Marquez Saves the Republic, like just constantly. Kayetriot.com if you'd like to join. All right, so I woke up to the news today, very excited to wake up to the news today, that several disgraced Democrats are mounting political comebacks. And man, I'm so excited. I've never been more jazzed in my entire life. The first, to which do we go? How do I put these in order? I guess I want to start with this. We'll start with Joe Biden. Joseph Robinette Biden Jr. and his pseudo-president Jill Biden. You know, it's always funny to me too, because they always talk about Donald Trump, and they joke about how Elon Musk is the actual president or co-president. But look at these two. I mean, come on, how many cabinet meetings did Elon Musk run? 0. How many did Jill Biden run? At least 1 that we know of. How many times did Elon Musk fill in for President Trump? None. How many times did Jill Biden? Several. How many times did Elon Musk have to show Donald Trump off of the stage? Never. Donald Trump's fully cognitively aware of what's going on. So anyway, it doesn't matter. These two are mounting a political comeback. This was all over. Eric Daughtry wrote, breaking, Joe and Jill want back into politics per NBC. Biden plans to campaign and, quote, do anything else necessary to save the Democratic Party during the second Trump era. He privately met with the DNC's new chair, Ken. What's that guy's name? Ken Martin? What's the DNC chair's name? I think it's Ken Martin. This is how unpopular the Democrat Party is. Ken Martin. The DNC chairman is Ken Martin, and Joe Biden has met with him, and he says he's going to campaign and do anything else necessary to help the Democrat Party. Now, keep in mind, Joe Biden, okay, when he says do anything else necessary, I have to imagine that means whether it's legal or not. Because there's still a lot of questions about Joe Biden and how he gets things done. There's still a lot of questions about Joe Biden and the depths that he'll go to win elections for himself or anyone else. Here's the actual article. NBC News, the Bidens want back in. With the Democratic Party struggling to find a new direction, former President Joe Biden and former First Lady Jill Biden have offered to jump in and help with fundraising and rebuilding. He told some Democrat leaders he'll raise funds, campaign to do anything else necessary for Democrats to recover lost ground as the Trump administration rolls back programs the party helped design, according to people close to him. Does he not know? Probably not. That he's the reason why Donald Trump is in office? Does he not know that the fact that he was on the ballot, his own party threw him off? They said, Joe Biden, you're wrong for the party. You're driving us into the ground. You're pushing people toward Donald Trump. And now Joe Biden's like, look, I know I destroyed our chances of winning the White House in 2024, but I think I have a lot to offer for 2026. Is he getting younger? So far, Biden's overture seems to have fallen flat. Democrats find themselves adrift, casting about for a compelling messenger. Whoever that is, it's not Biden. Many party activists and donors contend he's tethered to the 2024 defeat, and at 82 is a symbol more of the party's past than its future, they argue. Who's going to want Joe Biden back in the game? This guy right here. I'm telling you, I am stoked for Joe Biden to try to mount a comeback. Bring Joe back. If for no other reason, then I get to relive some of my favorite Joe Biden moments.
Everybody's entitled to be an idiot.
I mean, that's just, come on. The treasure trove of Joe Biden clips and quips and comments. And we've been lacking. There has not been a strong, mentally unstable, unable to speak or stand Democrat leader that we've been able to ridicule as much as we did Joe Biden.
No. Don't let him go.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't heard anybody say don't jump in forever. I haven't heard anyone say, turn it us into pressure in years.
You know how much I'm going to do with the deficit this year? $1,500,000,000.
Yeah, I don't know. That was this guy. Where is it? Oh, this is one of my favorites. I'm all ready for another Joe Biden town hall where he looks straight at Anderson Cooper and yells gay, 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 gay.
Gay bathhouses. And it's all about round the clock sex. It's all, come on, man.
I mean, when was the last time you had a political candidate use the term round the clock sex in a town hall meeting? I think he's the only one. I mean, not to mention not to mention mispronouncing names of prominent people that he's working with.
I honored a group of trailblazing artists with National Medals of Arts and Humanities. The group included groundbreaking Asian Americans like Vera Wang and
Sorry,
that's
audio only. I had a video. Oh, here's a good one.
We hold these truths to be self-evident. All men and women created by you know the thing.
I mean, these are things that I'm all here for. I need more Joe in my life. I need Joe Biden calling Kamala Harris President Harris.
Because we believe that speed and efficiency must be matched with fairness and equity. Now, when President Harris and I took a virtual tour of a vaccination center in Arizona.
I mean, what? Come on, where is Corn Pop? I miss those stories. I miss the children jumping in Joe's lap.
And by the way, I sit on the stand and it get hot. I got hairy legs that turn blonde in the sun. And the kids used to come up and reach in the pool and rub my leg down so it was straight, and then watch the hair come back up again. They'd look at it. So I learned about roaches. I learned about kids jumping on my lap. And I've loved kids jumping on my lap.
I mean, it's just... You don't get that. You don't get that from the modern Democrat politician. You get a lot of curse words. You get a lot of screaming and yelling. You get a lot of Jasmine Crockett threatening people's lives. You get Al Green getting censured. But you get Tim Walz threatening to kick people's asses and saying he can fix a truck and begging that for Tesla stock to come crashing down. You get all of that, but you just don't get that special something that only Joe Biden could deliver. Only Joe Biden was able to deliver those Bidenisms with the same kind of, I don't know, just the same kind of excitement and the same kind of entertainment value. And now Joe Biden says, I'm coming back. And the Democrat Party is saying, we don't want you. That's just, there's more. A spokesperson for the DNC didn't provide a comment or make Martin available for an interview, but a new NBC News poll shows that the Democrat Party's popularity has dropped to a record low. Asked about the prospect of Biden re-entering the political sphere, President Donald Trump told reporters in the Oval Office Friday, I hope so. I hope so. I don't know that Jill Biden's much better either, but Jill Biden, she misses it. She misses it more than anything else. She misses the only identity she had was being Dr. Jill Biden, First Lady. She loved it so much, and she only got 4 years of it. And she's bitter because Michelle got 8 years of being First Lady. Hillary got 8 years of being First Lady, and she was cheated. She feels like she only got the 4 years. She only got the 4 years of being First Lady. So she now she's going to do anything and everything that she possibly can to make sure that she gets her come up. She gets her just rewards, and she gets back in the political spotlight. So it's very, very interesting. And we will, of course, keep an eye on that. Also, this is kind of quizzical. Not only that, but Gavin Newsom, who I wouldn't even say he's mounting a political comeback because he's still in politics. He's still the governor of California. Gavin Newsom, he's horrible at it. He's the worst governor California's probably ever had. He almost got recalled. I don't know how he won, but they kept him in office. They kept him going. And Gavin Newsom now is, I guess, trying to move to the center. But the problem is that he's lying about things that he did very recently, I guess, forgetting that all of them are on tape. And CNN, of all people, man, CNN, who you would think, by the way, would be Gavin Newsom's best friend. You would think CNN and Gavin Newsom go together like peas and carrots. You would think that, but that's not necessarily the case. CNN is turning on Gavin Newsom. They don't like that the one-time staunch Democrat liberal leader on the left, the lunatic socialist who's been driving California into the ground and trying to take the rest of the Democrat Party with him, the guy who allowed the wildfires to just burn unchecked. Why? Well, because he wanted to save some smelts. He wanted to save the Gulf smelts upstate. He didn't want the water coming down to where the fires were, where the flames were burning down entire neighborhoods, where his rich donors were losing their mansions. He didn't want any of that because he had to save the little fishies in the northern part of the state, near wine country, where the party really cares about. But Gavin Newsom, he's trying to move to the center, and CNN, they are not going to let him. CNN is not at all happy with Gavin Newsom trying to change his entire, I guess you would say, outlook on life and politics, that they are calling him out. And they are basically saying that he is lying about something. And they did an entire package on it.
By the way, not one person ever in my office has ever used the word Latinx.
So can we finally put that to bed?
Yeah,
we agree.
But where did that even
No
come?
more Latinx, everybody.
Well, I just didn't even know where it came from. I'm like, what are people talking about?
But there was a person who used Latinx. It was actually a really important person. It was him. Right?
Yeah, that's right. And look, these aren't minor shifts. These are progressive issues that Gavin Newsom used to champion until fairly recently. And now he's not just walking away from them. He's sort of acting like they were never legitimate with that clip talking about Latinx in the first place. But let's take Latinx. We did find somebody who used it repeatedly in his office. Let's take a listen to this.
Yeah, before we get to the compilation of Gavin Newsom using the term Latinx, I would argue that he's not a very important person, but CNN would argue differently. So Gavin Newsom goes on his podcast with Charlie Kirk, and they talk about Latinx, and he goes, nobody in my office ever used the term Latinx. Where did it even come from? And Charlie Kirk's like, can we put it all back to bed? He's like, yeah, of course we can. And then, of course, CNN goes, not so fast.
I hope we can really paint a picture in terms of our consciousness of how impactful this has been on the Latinx community. The Latinx and Black communities. You've got politicians that are banning not assault rifles, but the word Latinx. They're not even serious.
Okay, so this is, does he not remember that he is in front of the camera? I mean, no one loves the camera more than Gavin Newsom. And he comes from a place where, I mean, it's Hollywood's right down the road, but you see Gavin Newsom in front of a camera more than like Tom Hanks or Brad Pitt or any of those other people. Gavin Newsom has spent most of his life speaking to somebody about something or other. Did he not know? Did nobody check before he backtracked and lied, flat out lied, saying, well, here's what he told Charlie Kirk one more time.
By the way, not one person ever in my office has ever used the word Latinx.
Not one person ever in my office has ever used the term Latinx. And then CNN throws him under the autobus.
I hope we can really paint a picture in terms of our consciousness of how impactful this has been on the Latinx community. The Latinx and Black communities. You've got politicians that are banning not assault rifles, but the word Latinx. They're not even serious.
Yeah, one of those politicians that's banning the word Latinx right now is Gavin Newsom. Because he said, let's put it all to bed. Let's just realize there's no such word as Latinx. Latinx, by the way, if you're unfamiliar with this, way back during the woke days, during the DE&I crisis that we all went through a couple years ago, there was, I don't know, even probably some gringo came up with the idea that Latino and Latina was not enough to describe people of the Latino community because, one's male, one's female. But what about the they, thems? What about the she-gems? What about those people who were, the Latinos who weren't really sure whether they were male or female? The transgender Latino community had no way to describe themselves. Not that I think they ever wanted one. So they took out the O, they took out the A, and they just put an X. Latinx became a thing in Gavin Newsom's mind. But now Gavin Newsom is saying, I don't even know what you're talking about. No one in my office ever used it.
By the way, not one person ever in my office has ever used the word Latinx.
And now he got busted by his old pals at CNN.
By the way, not one person ever in my office has ever used the word Latinx.
So can we finally put that to bed?
Yeah,
we agree.
Where did that even
No
come?
more Latinx, everybody.
Well, I just didn't even know where it came from. I'm like, what are people talking about?
But there was a person who used Latinx. It was actually a really important person. It was him.
Again, I would argue that he's not that important, but it's CNN. They're full of fake news. So Joe Biden is trying to come back into politics with Jill Biden under the guise of helping the Democrats reestablish an image that he basically destroyed. He's like, hey guys, I know I took a wrecking ball to the party, but maybe now I can help rebuild it. I don't think so. And then Gavin Newsom, who realizes that his party's been destroyed, and if he ever wants to be president of the United States, which has been his lifelong goal since, forever, since he failed in the wine business, he decided maybe I could become president. And now he realizes that in order to become president, he's got to pretend like he never was a left-wing radical lunatic socialist running around yelling Latinx every single day, which he was. But he's trying to make people forget. Luckily, we have the tapes. And then there's Joy Reid. You remember Joy Reid? She was disgraced off of MSNBC. She was basically thrown out. They just looked at her. They're like, you know what? Our ratings are in the toilet. Nobody watches this network. It's god awful, and you're probably the reason why. You remember Joy Reid? Well, Joy Reid is, I guess, trying to mount a comeback of her own. And she appeared, just to show you how low she's gone, she appeared on the Don Lemon show, which I guess is a podcaster. It's probably what we do, but I mean, nowhere near as honest and truthful and entertaining. Don Lemon had Joy Reid on his show, and she started mouthing off about Canada and Donald Trump's, I guess, trade war with Canada, or Donald Trump's urging Canada to become the 51st state, or toying with the idea of making Canada the 51st state. And Joy Reid, who apparently has she's a lawyer. I forget where she went to law school. I should probably Google it quickly. Joy Reid, former MSNBC shrew, is now on the Don Lemon show, and she's spouting off history lessons to Donald Trump. The only problem is the majority of the history she's discussing is inaccurate and just plain, what's the word I'm looking for? Wrong. Listen to this.
Grampy Trump, let's talk. Let's talk. First of all, you can't make Canada the 51st state without going to war with them. And let me explain how that happened, how that worked out the last time we tried to go to war with Canada. They burned the White House to the ground in 1814 and won the war. Canada beat us in the War of 1812.
Okay, now this is an interesting take on history, because Canada wasn't even a country until 1867. 1867, July 1st, they call it Canada Day. It's very similar to July 4th, only it's different. And she's saying in 1814, during the War of 1812, Canada beat us and burned down the White House. It's interesting to me how Joy Reid, who apparently went to Harvard University, I just found out, Joy Reid, who's Harvard educated, doesn't know that the War of 1812 was between the British and the United States, and that Canada was a mere British province at the time. But she seems to think that Canada burned down the White House. Okay, all right, we'll let you, you do you, boo. But there's more to it. Listen, there's more. That's not the only reason. The first reason, she says, that we could never beat Canada in a war. If you want Canada to be the 51st state, Donald Trump, first of all, you're going to have to invade them. And you don't want to do that, because if you go to war with Canada, you're going to lose again. Which I don't understand how that worked. Why? But if we lost a war with the British colonies before, now we would. I think we've come a lot farther and a lot farther. But I digress. Here's her second point as to why Canada could whoop us in a war.
They probably like their chances against us. We're not going to beat them in a war because we have never been able to do that. You'd have to occupy a country that is equivalent of the size of the United States, in which the top 2/3 of it is uninhabited, frozen forest land that touches the Arctic. You know how that worked out when the Nazis tried that with Russia, which is the equivalent of Canada on that part of the world? We gonna lose.
Okay, now this is weird to me, because she's almost contradicting herself in the same exact sentence. I mean, that's not weird. She does that a lot. But she goes, we'd have to occupy Canada, which 2/3 of it is uninhabited Arctic tundra wasteland. Why would we have to? I don't understand. Why would we have to occupy the uninhabited part? You don't have to. No one occupies it. There's nobody there. There's nobody living in the Yukon territories. There's like 3 people. What's Cornelius? Yukon Cornelius. The what's the name? Bumble. And Hermie the dentist. There's nobody that lives there. You don't have to occupy or even invade the uninhabited part of Canada. You just really take out the capital and the urban centers, and you're good to go. But she's likening it. Canada is the Russia of this part of the country. And there's no way we can't fight cold weather wars. I don't know. I've been to Boston in January, and let's just say my nips have never been as hard as they were when I was and I grew up in Canada. But it's a bizarre argument. And then she went on further to talk about guns, which whenever liberals start talking about guns, you really just have to turn your head and go, don't. You know, it'd be like me talking about hair care products. You're going to be like, you know what? This is not your realm. This is not what you understand. You have very little inkling of knowledge about guns. If you're voting, you got a big D next to your name. If you worked for MSNBC, if you're a Democrat operative, if you're being interviewed by Don Lemon, then yeah, guns are not going to be your area of expertise. But she talked about him anyway.
We don't have enough troops to occupy. They are a country of 39 million people who have about as many guns per capita as we do.
Okay, so there's so much wrong with it. I mean, like, I don't think there's not one thing this woman has said in this whole diatribe has been right. I don't even know if her name is Joy Reid at this point. I don't think I can believe that. Canada didn't beat the United States in the War of 1812. The British did. Canada, it was actually a stalemate. So nobody really won. Then they didn't burn down the White House in 1814. The British did. I mean, there's so much going wrong with this. You don't have to invade the uninhabited part of Canada. It's uninhabited. Just leave it alone. Leave it to the moose and the beavers and the Arctic wildlife and the penguins and whoever else, the polar bears and whatever else you got. And then finally, the whole gun issue. If she's saying what Canada had what? How many guns? I wasn't even really paying attention. What did she say? Guns per capita?
We don't have enough troops to occupy. They are a country of 39 million people who have about as many guns per capita as we do.
That's a lie. First of all, 39 million people. The United States is a country of 330 million people. We probably have about 300 million more people than Canada does. And they have 12 million guns. Like 1 million of those are handguns, and those have been confiscated by the government. Why? Well, because their socialist dictator, Justin Trudeau, didn't want Canadians rising up against his tyrannical, communist policies. So he took their guns away. He said, you cannot have any more handguns. So they got about what, 12 million rifles? You know how many guns we have? 393 million. And I think half of those are right here in Florida. 393 million guns. Private owned guns. That's not even the military. Forget the military. We'll get to the military in a minute. You have 393 million guns in the United States of America. Canada has 12 million. And she thinks that they're going to win in a war. She thinks that 393 million guns in the United States versus a population of 40 million people is somehow something we're scared of. I mean, I don't know. I really like our chances if we went to war with Canada. Not that I think it would come to that. Also, the Canadian military is about the size of the Montana National Guard. They have about 25,000 active troops. Their police ride around on horseback. Okay, they're not the most militarily well-endowed country in the world. And let's be honest, we wouldn't do any of that. We can win in a trade war because we subsidize them to the tune of $200 billion. So Joy Reid is lying about Canada in her attempt to make a comeback to the political talk world, the broadcasting world. Gavin Newsom's lying about not saying Latinx because he's trying to move to the center so he can run for president in 2028. And Joe Biden's just forgotten that he's destroyed his own party, or just doesn't care, or is just so bored and so sick of listening to his wife complain that he's trying to get out of the house. So he's trying to mount a political comeback and reestablish himself as a playa in the Democrat Party, man. That's why I say it's March Madness out there. Madness, I tell you. They've all gone totally loco. They've all gone totally crazy. It's just wild and insane. Look, there's a lot of other fun stuff going on. The Department of Education, Donald Trump continuing to hammer away at these judges. And these judges, I got to tell you, I was on Newsmax earlier today, and it was so funny. They called me yesterday and they said, "Hey, Mark, can you do Newsmax tomorrow morning?" And I said, "Yeah, sure, no problem." They said, "Great, we're going to have you on at 6:30 and again at 7. And then I was like, whoa. I was like, that's really, those are two very early hits. So I backtracked. I was like, all right, 6:30. That means I'm probably going to get up at like 5:30. You know. Anyway, but it was great. And I was supposed to be on with this guy Will, who's a Democrat, worked for the Joe Biden campaign, and I love doing these news segments with Democrats. I almost like doing the news segments with Democrats more than I like doing them with Republicans or anyone else, because you get a little, it gets a little heated, gets a little exciting. It's not just everybody agreeing with each other. But anyway, I guess he couldn't make it, or he called in sick, or he didn't wake up on time, or he forgot, because it was just me. So Allison Maloney and Charlotte McBride were there, and they brought me on, and I was getting ready to debate with a Democrat. But then all of a sudden, there it was. It was just, Mark, what do you think about this? So I had about like 15 uninterrupted minutes on Newsmax this morning, but we talked about a myriad of different things. We talked about the Tesla tyranny and the terrorist attacks against Tesla. We talked about Donald Trump and these orders that these judges are putting out there, demanding information from the Department of Justice. And 10 a.m. today was the new deadline. The new deadline was for 10 a.m. today. I don't even know if the DOJ showed up, but this Judge Boasberg, the district court judge in D.C., who demanded that Donald Trump stop these flights, demanded through an attorney that Donald Trump stop these flights, demanded that Donald Trump turn these planes around and bring these Tren de Aragua criminals, these murderers, these thugs, these rapists, these drug dealers, these human traffickers, bring them back to the United States. We can not have these people leaving the United States of America. They must be firmly planted here in the United States of America for the long haul. We don't want them going anywhere. We want them right here for good. And so now he's saying, look, the DOJ violated the order. I need this information. He's asking them for top secret documentation. He's asking them questions that, as a district court judge, he has no clearance to know the answers for. And really, a lot of people would argue it's not even in his purview. He has no jurisdiction over any of this. Just because the ACLU brings a claim, it doesn't mean that Donald Trump, the commander-in-chief, the highest-ranking executive, the president of the United States, the leader of the free world, he doesn't have to bend over and answer top-secret questions that some district court judge wants to know because he doesn't like Donald Trump and his buddies at the ACLU are demanding answers. So the DOJ said, look, we told you everything we want to know. And he's like, well, if you're going to use the state secrets argument, which they are, then I need, get this, he asked for a sworn affidavit. I had it written down here. He asked for a sworn affidavit from a cabinet level administrator, meaning a member of the cabinet, who was involved in the conversation where they claimed the state secrets defense. Now, the state secrets defense basically is the DOJ, the Department of Justice, Pam Bondi, the president, saying, look, we understand that you have questions about this case, but we can't answer them because they're state secrets. And we would be violating federal law if we disclosed these important state secrets of national security to you. Even though you're a district court judge, you ain't got no business knowing this stuff because you don't have the clearance. And so that's the argument that they're making. Well, instead of saying that is your right as the executive branch, that is your right as the president of the United States, and yes, your job is to protect state secrets, and if you're telling me that answering my questions would go against the state secrets defense that you have going on, well, then I will take that and I will run with it. No, instead of doing any of that, this guy says, I don't believe you. I need a sworn affidavit from a cabinet level member of your administration, meaning Marco Rubio or I don't know, I guess, I mean, it wouldn't be Donald Trump, JD Vance. Who's he looking for here? Also, they don't have time to deal with that. They don't have time to swear an affidavit for some district court judge, especially since, get this, in my understanding, and again, I'm no lawyer, but I did get waitlisted from one of the finest law schools in the country. And in my understanding, if you declare state secrets defense, so you're not able to provide this information, then swearing an affidavit explaining, oh yes, I was there when we discussed the state secrets defense, also violates the state secrets defense, because the people involved in that decision making, that's all top secret too. So I don't know what this judge is trying to prove. And 10 a.m. today, they were supposed to provide this thing. I imagine they did not. And I imagine that Donald Trump is going to not defy the judge, but continue to And look, and this is the tactic you want to take. We hear all the time about checks and balances, right? Like the Democrats are all like, there's checks and balances. The president of the United States cannot run around with unfettered power. He is not a king. The judiciary is there to make sure that he does not overstep his boundaries. And that's true. The president is not a king. There are checks and balances. The judiciary is there to make sure that there is going to be some kind of retribution for a president gone wild. But at the same time, no branch of our government is free of checks and balances, and no branch of our government has ultimate power. And there are checks and balances on the judicial branch as well. The judiciary does not have unfettered power either. The judiciary can be impeached, just like we've seen with a couple of our Congress people who are introducing articles of impeachment. Unfortunately, though, however, what you're starting to see is that, well, they're on vacation, so not a lot's going to happen with that. But you're starting to see that there's all kinds of different ways that the judiciary can be held in check. They could be defunded. The Appropriations Committee could meet and say, look, okay, we can't fire these judges because we don't like their opinion. We can't take away their salaries, but we can defund their courts. And if the federal district court judge is acting in a way that is interfering with national security, and that is outside of their jurisdiction, and that is abusive in what they're supposed to be doing, then the Appropriations Committee can defund their clerks, defund their administrators, shut down their offices. The judges continue to get paid, but good luck. Good luck hearing any cases without a bailiff. Good luck hearing any cases without the electricity running on. I mean, there's all kinds of things they could do. They could call hearings, and they could bring these judges in front of a committee and make these judges testify and plead their case and explain why is it that you think you have this jurisdiction when clearly you don't, and the Constitution says you don't, and Donald Trump says you don't. What is it that makes you think that you have the right to stop the flights of illegal immigrants going back home, of criminals that were ordered by the commander-in-chief and the chief executive in charge of law enforcement? What makes you think that? They're not doing any of these things, by the way. There has even been a written condemnation in the Congress saying, hey, we condemn the actions of all these judges, again, because Congress is not in session. And I don't know if all this is, maybe that's convenient. Maybe the judges knew that when they started making these orders. Maybe the judges knew that when they started going out and saying, hey, maybe they went to the same law school as Joy Reid. Maybe that's what maybe they're just confused by the facts.
Grampy Trump, let's talk. First of all, you can't make Canada the 51st state without going to war with them. And let me explain how that happened, how that worked out the last time we tried to go to war with Canada. They burned the White House to the ground in 1814 and won the war. Canada beat us in the War of 1812.
By the way, this gives me serious Animal House vibes. Remember when John Belushi, when Blutarski was like, was it over when the Germans bombed Pearl Harbor?
Was it over when the Germans bombed Pearl Harbor?
Yeah, that's exactly what.
They burned the White House to the ground in 1814 and won the war.
Yeah, that's exactly the vibe that I get.
Was it over when the Germans bombed Pearl Harbor?
I mean, never take history lessons from Joy Reid. Never, ever, ever take history lessons from Joy Reid. Just never do it, because it's not gonna end up well. It's not going to end up well for anybody. But look, Donald Trump yesterday, speaking of history, he did something very historic. Donald Trump decided, you know what? We're done. We're done with the Department of Education. This is something he promised during his campaign. This is something he promised when he got elected. This is something that Doge has been looking at very strongly for a long time, and he finally did it. He said, no more Department of Education. It's donezo.
Today we take a very historic action that was 45 years in the making. In a few moments, I will sign an executive order to begin eliminating the Federal Department of Education once and for all.
Yeah, and that was the I guess you would say, end result of a promise he made to send education back where it belongs.
We're going to be returning education very simply back to the states where it belongs. And this is a very popular thing to do, but much more importantly, it's a common sense thing to do, and it's going to work. Absolutely, it's going to work. And I can tell you from dealing with the governors and others in the state, they want it so badly. They want to take their children back and really teach their children individually. Probably the cost will be half, and the education will be maybe many, many times better. So,
I mean, if you look at it, if you think about the cost, and Donald Trump, he goes through the cost. He talks all about the waste and the fraud and the abuse and how expensive it is and how we're not getting any return on our investment. He's saying, look, we can cut the cost in half and have a much better result. Why wouldn't we do that?
After 45 years, the United States spends more money on education by far than any other country, and spends likewise by far more money per pupil than any country, and it's not even close. But yet we rank near the bottom of the list in terms of success. It's an amazing stat. Those are two stats you don't want. The most money spent per pupil, and you're at the bottom of the list. And that's where we are, like it or not. And we've been there for a long time. 70% of eighth graders are not proficient in either reading or in math. 70%. 40% of fourth graders lack even basic reading skills, can't read. Students in our public elementary and middle schools score worse in reading today than when the department opened, by a lot. In Baltimore, 40% of the high schools have 0 students who can do basic mathematics. Not even the very simplest of mathematics. I said, give me your definition of basic. And they're talking about like adding a few numbers together. Despite these breathtaking failures, the department's discretionary budget has exploded by 600% in a very short period of time, and employs bureaucrats in buildings all over Washington, D.C. And as a former real estate person, I will tell you, I ride through the streets of Washington and it says Department of Education, Department of Education. I said, how do you fill those buildings? It's crazy what's happened over the years.
By the way, I'm all about Donald Trump driving through the streets of D.C. in the Beast, looking at, you're driving down Constitution Avenue, he sees Department of Education, Department of Education. He's looking up, he's going, what is all this prime real estate along the mall? What are we doing with the Department of Education needs all this space? How do you fill it? And they're like, well, sir, we don't really fill it. He's like, this could be your hotel. This could be a big, beautiful hotel. Think of all the people we could put here. Right? It's close access to restaurants and theaters and all the Smithsonian's right across the way. This is ridiculous. What a waste of space. You could put a casino in here. You could have weddings, host all kinds of, could be a convention center. I think that, Donald Trump's plan, I think, to rescue DC is to, first of all, gut it. Number one, get rid of all the waste, the fraud, the abuse. And then you know what you could do? You could really rent out all these things to companies that are going to pay more money. You could rent them out. You could convert them into mixed use spaces. And I think that it would really be fantastic. I will say this, though, as somebody who is looking forward to serving in Washington, D.C., potentially as a congressperson as early as 2026, because, well, my horrible Congressman John Rutherford needs to be primaried, and I think I'm probably at the top of the list of people to do it. But I've been casually looking around at real estate in D.C., and man, there is a lot of it. Why? Well, because Donald Trump is cutting out the waste, fraud, and abuse. Donald Trump is doging people, and the government, either the offices, everyone's being fired, or they're being relocated, or both. And that means there's a lot of prime real estate available in DC. If you're looking for a deal on a condo or a townhouse near the Capitol building, trust me, there's a lot of great stuff. But Donald Trump says, look, this is all good stuff. It does no good for us to spend all this money without getting, students that know math.
But the department's useful functions, and such as, and they're in charge of them, Pell Grants, Title I funding, resources for children with disabilities and special needs will be preserved, fully preserved. They're all going to be so. If you look at the Pell Grants, supposed to be a very good program, Title I funding and resources for children with special disabilities and special needs, they're going to be preserved in full. and redistributed to various other agencies and departments that will take very good care of them. And that's very important to Linda, I know, and it's very important to all of us. But beyond these core necessities, my administration will take all lawful steps to shut down the department. We're going to shut it down and shut it down as quickly as possible. It's doing us no good. We want to return our students to the states where just some of the governors here are so happy about this. They want education to come back to them, to come back to the states, and they're going to do a phenomenal job.
Yeah, and that's Ron DeSantis, by the way, who was right there front and center from Florida, the #1 state for education in the country. Governor Greg Abbott was there from Texas. Bunch of other governors were there, and they were all celebrating with Donald Trump the ability for them to educate students in their own states and districts the way those students are going to be educated to the best of their ability. And here in Florida, even there's legislation in Florida that is saying we're not only going to give the power of education back to the states, but to the counties. And counties, individual counties and districts are going to have autonomy on how to customize a curriculum and a learning environment so that each child thrives. And the money they spend, we're going to have an ROI. And the parents are going to be happy, and the kids are going to be smarter, and they're going to go to colleges, and they're going to stay in the United States, and the United States will become one of those education centers, and we're going to rise up the ranks. And then, of course, if we have smarter kids who are better educated and have the skills to survive, then our entire country is better. And that's all Donald Trump wants to do, again, is use education to make America a better place. And the teachers, forget about it. This whole thing about Donald Trump attacking teachers, or Donald Trump hates teachers, or the unions, he's at war with the unions. Look, the unions have a lot of problems, and Randy Weingarten, that's a whole other story. But Donald Trump saying we don't hate teachers at all. Teachers have been almost attacked. They've been demoralized. Teachers have been disrespected. Not by Donald Trump or anything he's planning on doing, but by the existing system. The Department of Education has kept teachers in a place where they continually complain about their salaries. They continually complain about how much money they make. The reason teachers have to get summer jobs or part-time jobs during the school year, the reason you can't get the best people to teach or the best teachers to stay in their jobs as long as possible is because of the Department of Education. Now that that's gone, Donald Trump says we have way more opportunity to recruit, to compensate, and to reward teachers based on merit.
I want to just make one little personal statement. Teachers, to me, are among the most important people in this country, and we're going to take care of our teachers. And I don't care if they're in the union or not in the union. That doesn't matter. But we're going to take care of our teachers, and I believe the states will take actually better care of them than they are taken care of right now. They'll work all sorts of systems and even merit systems. Those great teachers are going to be maybe a little bit better rewarded, or maybe that's the way it should be, but the states are going to make that decision. But we're going to love and cherish our teachers along with our children, and they're going to work with the parents, and they're going to work with everybody else, and it's going to be an amazing thing to watch, and it's really going to be something special. And
back in the day when law enforcement was under attack, remember defund the police? Everybody was screaming and yelling, defund the police. Cori Bush, who, by the way, her husband is now getting indicted for wire fraud or something. It's very funny. Cori Bush wanted to defund the police in Minnesota. Everybody was like defunding the police. Not here in Florida. In Florida, we did the opposite. Governor Ron DeSantis said, look, there's a lot of police in New York. There's a lot of police in Boston. There's a lot of police in these other urban centers that are losing their jobs or are retiring early or are just being, disrespected, defunded, and they're walking away. They're saying, I'm not going to protect the public when the public doesn't want to be protected. I'm not going to protect the public when they're screaming and yelling, saying, get out of my face. So Ron DeSantis did something really brilliant. He said, look, come to Florida. We'll give you a bonus. Come to Florida. If you're an experienced law enforcement officer, we want you in Florida because in Florida, we respect law and order. We need people to keep the peace. Come to Florida. In a lot of places, not only did they get a signing bonus, sometimes they had moving expenses paid for them. And Ron DeSantis saw an opportunity where police were going into early retirement or just quitting and changing positions. He reached out and said, hey, here in the free state of Florida, we respect you and we will help you and we will reward you if you come and use your skills to help keep the peace and help our citizens safe. And it worked like a charm. And that's what's going to happen with teachers unions now, or teachers. You're going to have a state like Florida, which is #1 in education, and they're going to say, you know what? We want the best teachers. So we're willing to pay moving expenses. We're willing to pay a signing bonus. Maybe we'll give you some kind of stipend and merit. Forget about it. If your kids graduate, if your kids pass this test, if your kids have a certain grade point average, if your kids get into college, whatever it is, whatever statistic or whatever, benchmark they select as a successful, as a evidence of a successful teacher, they can reward you, and they will. Because now what Donald Trump has done by getting rid of the Department of Education, he's created 50 different departments of education here in the United States, probably 51 because DC has its own thing going. And with 51 people all competing for the same crop of teachers, the teachers are going to win. The teachers are going to be the ones who come out on top, because the best teachers are going to be wanted by everybody. And they're going to be incentivized. And if one state starts incentivizing teachers and giving merit-based rewards for teachers and attracting the best teachers and creating the best education system, then you know what's going to happen? The other states are going to have to up their game. It's called competition. It's how capitalism works. It's how technology works. It's how things happen. Do you know why Elon Musk was able to go and rescue the astronauts with his SpaceX rocket? It's because space travel became privatized, and you no longer had NASA working as a government monopoly, paying way too much for too little. Now you had private companies like SpaceX, like Blue Origin, owned by Jeff Bezos, like Virgin Galactic, owned by, what's his name? Sir Richard Branson. You have, and there's others, but those are the three biggies. You had three big major companies competing with each other to do it faster and better and cheaper and more technologically advanced. And now you've got three companies building rockets. And when that happens, you get better rockets, cheaper rockets, and more technologically advanced rockets. And what's going to happen with our education system is you're not going to have 1, 2, or 3 people competing. You're going to have 50. 51 if you include DC. Although I don't think DC's going to be much competition. Linda McMahon, who is the secretary of the Department of Education for now, she basically got doged live on TV yesterday by Donald Trump, who sat down and signed this order, which, by the way, he had all these little kids around him. And it was really cool. What they did was Donald Trump signed his order, and then all the little kids were at their desks, and they had markers, and they signed their orders. And then the kids held up. They're like, look, we all signed. They all held up their orders. The little kid in the yarmulke is taking a little bit longer. And then what happened is they're all standing. I'm thinking to myself, this is a great visual. I don't know who's planning these little dramas for the White House with Donald Trump, but it's amazing on a couple levels. First of all, I love the spectacle of it. I thought it was great. Second of all, isn't it nice to have a president that you can trust around little kids? These kids were there the whole day. They were there with Donald Trump. He met with them. He talked to them. None of them were scared. He didn't nibble on one of them. I watched the whole thing. Donald Trump did not nibble on one child. He did not put one child's foot in his mouth. He did not get dangerously or creepily close to any children, whisper to the children, sniff their hair, and nothing. Didn't make inappropriate gestures toward their parents. Donald Trump was a complete gentleman and treated these kids like kids, and was totally acceptable behavior. It was a really nice switch. That's something else that I noticed as well. But Linda McMahon's like, okay, well, he signed the order. He's put me in charge of dismantling the Department of Education, and you know what? And I'm all about it. I'm all about it. Is it going to be challenging? Oh yeah, I'm sure the lawsuits are already being drafted.
I can tell you, we know that the task ahead, certainly has some hurdles. But what my desire is, and what I'm going to be working to do, is to work in conjunction with Congress. I think if we can show them that the best plan is to have states in control of education for their communities, for their students, for their teachers, for their parents, that is the best thing, because the president believes, as do I, that the best education is closest to the student, and we can accomplish that by having it operate out of the state and not trying to manage it from Washington D.C., which clearly, Brett, that hasn't worked. The Department of Education was set up in 1980 by President Carter. We've spent almost $3 trillion. We've seen our scores continue to decline. We're doing something wrong. We need to change.
Yeah, and now we've changed it. We've shut it all down. We've expelled the Department of Education from the federal government, and now the states. Just watch. It's going to happen quickly. Donald Trump, he doesn't mess around. He gets this stuff done. He gets it done quickly, and you start to see real change real quick. Speaking of which, Brooke Rollins has a handy-dandy chart if you haven't been paying attention to the egg prices.
I have another handy-dandy chart for everyone, a different one than I had before. But this is, you can see the rise of eggs, right, up until here. This is when we rolled out the plan 3 or 4 weeks ago with President Trump's vision and his task of me. And then you can see, to your point, a 53% drop in just those few weeks. Listen, we rolled out a bold plan. A lot of people thought it was perhaps too bold. We looked at repopulation of the chickens. We looked at biosecurity. We looked at the importation for the short term of eggs from other countries. We looked at the long term, how we're going to solve this problem of the avian bird flu. And at the end of the day, the market reacted to that. They knew that there was leadership that was fearless and bold, that the team at USDA and across the White House that helped us build this plan, that it works.
It works. Look at the egg prices. They're plummeting, and it's because they repopulated chickens. Do you know how difficult it is to repopulate a chicken? I've seen it done. It's not pretty at all. I'm just glad that they're fixing this problem before Easter because, egg season is just a couple of weeks away. And Cadbury cream eggs, I was trying to find them. They're difficult to find too, and I know that they're seasonal, but hopefully the price of those is coming down as well because when it's Easter time, the Cadbury cream egg is really the one that you want to focus on. But you also don't want the Easter bunny. You don't want the Easter bunny having to pick and choose. You don't want the Easter bunny saying, okay, you know what we're going to have to do? We're really going to have to ration the eggs this year. So each kid gets maybe one egg, if that, or one egg per family because the Easter bunny can't afford it because Joe Biden let the chickens die, killed the chickens. No, now thank God Donald Trump and Brooke Rollins and the chicken inseminators, I don't even know, the chicken repopulation experts have been able to fix this problem. Before Easter because otherwise it would have been like the Grinch who stole Easter. Hey, speaking of stealing things, real quick, I want to share this with you. This is a video I saw on the internet because that's where I am most of the time. If I'm not here, just look for me on the internet because that's where I'll be. This is on the New York City subway. And I believe that there's no foul language or anything, but this is on the New York City subway. This is there's a guy here, a young man wearing, as you can see, a red MAGA hat. Make America Great Again is what it says. You probably have one yourself or you know someone who does. It's a very common hat. You can tell, look, you can see the red. And this guy over on the left with it, just minding his own business, by the way, just standing on the subway, just riding the subway with a Make America Great Again hat on, not bothering anybody, not talking. It looks like a delightful young person just riding the subway, going to work, school. I have no idea where he's going, but he's wearing a MAGA hat. And this other woman across the way, we'll call her Karen, is very upset with this young man simply for wearing a MAGA hat. And she starts to yell at him. But really, the best part is when she starts to grab his hat and chase him.
That's why he won.
She's screaming. People are yelling back at her. One of his friends is saying, So now this kid, by the way, she's yelling at this poor kid in a MAGA hat. He's not saying a word. Somebody else on the subway starts yelling at her. That's why he won, meaning Donald Trump. That's why some other guy in the subway is like, leave him alone. That's why he won, lady.
Bro, just chill, bro. You're okay with that? He's a racist. Bro, how can I be racist?
And she's yelling, you're a racist, you're a racist. And he's holding up his hands. He's going, I'm brown. How can I be a racist? What are you even talking about, man? And she's screaming and yelling, and this third party's getting involved. And it's just, and everyone else, by the way, there's like 9 people on the subway in between them. They're just all on their phones. This is typical. In New York City, this is just typical. This is another subway ride. I lived in New York for years. I went to NYU, as you know, Barron Trump's school of choice. I went to NYU. I rode the subway at all hours of the night during the day. I went and rode the subway to Queens and to Brooklyn. I rode it up and down Manhattan. I was a subway riding fiend. And this is calm. I mean, there was so much mayhem on the subways, and we didn't have cell phones, so we would just like stare off into space or look at our watches. Some people would read, but this is typical.
If you fucking voted for Trump, you're a racist. He's a racist.
How can I be racist? No, he's not. Leave him alone.
Doesn't watch the news.
You realize he wants to be Democrat. I'm highly educated.
she's yelling, you're a racist, whatever, you're blah. And then he says, they get into something, he goes, I'm educated. And she goes, are you? Then why are you wearing the hat? Only uneducated people would wear that hat. And then this is the best part. So the subway stops and the door opens and he says, this is my stop. And he takes his hat and he puts it on his head. He goes, this is my stop, so I'm going to leave. And she goes and lunges for his hat and chases him down the platform. And look at this. She starts running and slam. She just faceplanted. He starts running down the subway platform. He's got his hat on her head. She chases him. She goes to grab his hat. He takes it off his head, runs. She takes 2 steps, slips, and just bam, bites the cement just right into the ground. Just there he is, and splash. She's Superman's, and she's not a waifish person by any. I'm not gonna say she's like, this is a lot. This is a lot of. I mean, let's just say gravity's pulling hard on this woman. Okay. So this poor kid's running and she takes 2 steps and she slips and then splash. It just plows right into the concrete. And I don't know. I guess somebody comes to her rescue here. Oh, and then she gets up apparently and continues to chase this kid. And I don't know why. This is, ladies and gentlemen, this is the image of the modern Democrat Party. This is the modern Democrat Party. Angry Karen yelling at a minority wearing a Trump hat, trying to chase him down violently, criminally steal his property, and ends up with instant karma, face planting. I mean, you don't get any lower. Butt up in the air, feet flailing around, face planted into the concrete. This is the photo of the modern Democrat Party. This is, I mean, I wish I had a graph of their current approval ratings, because this is exactly what their approval ratings look like. This is the human embodiment of the Democrat Party's approval ratings. Is this crazy Karen who face plants on the subway after chasing down a guy with a MAGA hat on? And this guy right here, let me show you this. This guy right here living his best life is just smiling and laughing and having a blast. That is the Republican Party right there. You've got the Republican Party and you've got the Democrat Party in one snapshot in New York City. Which one would you rather be? If you're not a member of the Republican Party, take it from me. Now's the best time to be a Republican. There has never been a better time in history to be a Republican. And if you don't believe me, just study that photo very, very hard. There's never been a better time otherwise in the history of the world to be a capitalist too, because we are living in Donald Trump's new golden age. And in the new golden age, there's less regulation, there's fewer taxes, there's more money in your pocket, and there's more opportunity for you to use your money and invest your money and do what you want with your money in a way that the government is not going to interfere with. Why? Well, because Donald Trump said less government interference. And if you want to start a business, if you want to do a meme coin, if you want to do nothing at all, if you want to post on social media all day or start a podcast, there's never been a better time to do it, because this is the new golden age. And one of the things that I have realized as being a professional social media influencer in the new golden age is it's never been easier to use your phone and to use your creativity to create massive amounts of wealth. And I created a program that we've now done every single week for almost a month. In fact, next week, next Wednesday, March 26th at 8 p.m., I will be hosting what has now become a weekly tradition, one of my favorite weekly traditions, and one of the most exciting, the Dollars for Followers Masterclass, where I teach you how to make at least $1 for every follower you have. I've taken what I do every single day. I've taken the systems and the formulas, and I've broken it down for you, and I'll give them to you so that you can start earning $1 for every follower at minimum. It's a social sales system that creates wealth in the new golden age. It's a $97 class, but get this, I'm giving you a massive discount. It's only $17 if you register online at dollarsforfollowers.com. Go to the page. You can see some of the earnings. You can read the disclaimers. You can read the entire class syllabus. It's 1 hour, 60 minutes, broken down into 3 20-minute segments where we teach you how to figure out how to make $1 for every follower you have, how to create content that creates cash flow, how to rinse and repeat and build a blueprint so that you can do this over and over and over again. And then at the very end of the class, I will pull some people up onto the virtual Zoom stage and we'll do hot seats, if you'd like to call them that. I prefer to call them profile transformations or content audits. I'll give you my 20 plus years of creating content online. Let you pick my brain and I'll share some of the helpful hints that I can give you to 10x your content, grow your reach, and grow your sales as well. Listen, this thing happens on Wednesday, but you don't want to wait because we have a limited opportunity for these content audits and these transformations, and they are first come, first serve. So if you're free Wednesday and you want to come, register now at dollarsforfollowers.com. There's a link in the description of this video, dollarsforfollowers.com. Don't wait till Wednesday. Do it now so you can be at the top of the list and you can start earning at least $1 for every follower you have. Listen, we'll be back on Monday with a live show, but you never know when there's going to be new content popping up over the weekend. If something happens, I'll jump on, make a video, do a short, do a live stream. I will let you know everything that's happening, when it's happening, but only if you subscribe to this channel. Set your notifications and let whatever platform you're listening to or watching know, I want more. Mark Kaye saves the Republic. Have a great weekend. The after party comes up for all of our Kayetriot Club members in about 3 minutes. Starting now.